Hello again. Well, as you can see, we're back on the Severn. We were here 3 weeks ago, but the weather has changed somewhat dramatically. The rain we were hoping for, because when Dave and I were here last time, we both agreed that the peg that I'd asked him to fish, which if you recall he'd never seen before, he felt that with a drop of water on, this would be a very, very good feeder peg. Well, the elements have conspired against us because the river is even lower, probably 2 foot down, and just as clear as it was then. But the fact of the matter is, in a match fishing situation, we do draw these pegs. So what do? I'll ask Dave to come back, take into consideration the conditions that prevail, and what would Dave Harrell do on a day like this? Let's go and find out. Morning.
Hi, David.
I bet you're glad I brought you here today, aren't you?
You picked some good days for me to come fishing with you.
Well, you know, when we were here last time, I think we both agreed that it looked a lovely peg for the feeder, but what we didn't know was it wasn't going to rain, and B, it was going to go frosty.
Let's come back when there's 2 foot on us. We could have.
Yeah.
But no,
it's about 2 foot down, isn't it?
It's another interesting challenge, isn't it? This one.
Yeah. Well, that didn't take very long, did it? A year of little faith.
Feels like a good fish, this does.
Does it? Don't forget the snag.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Do you remember last time? And this one's heading straight forward.
The trouble is the river's so clear they can actually see the snags now, can't they?
Yeah.
Just keep your rod up. That's bending well, isn't it? Is that your old Daiwa rod?
Yeah. It's gone straight towards. He's in it, I think.
Is he? Oh no, he's come out.
You know where they're going, don't they?
Oof, just a bit.
Snag's solid there. I can see the fish out there.
Is he in it?
Yeah, it's a great big branch, Dave. It must have come down on the flood.
You can see it coming out of the water.
Yeah.
Just there.
Yes, they just slacken off a little bit, see if he comes out. That's a good start, isn't it?
Well, it is if you get. You can see the snag's moving, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a branch.
Is it? Is the fish still on?
I'm not sure. I'll have to let it go slack and see if it comes out. It was a good start, wasn't it?
Well, we had problems last time, didn't we, with those snags? And I suspect this is all stuff that's come down in the floods. You can see the snag moving, can't you?
I can feel the fish. The fish is still on.
Just be patient.
I've also got half a tree attached to it.
I can see. I can see. I know it's of no consequence whatsoever, but I once played a big fish for about 20 minutes on this river, only to find for 20 minutes I'd been playing a supermarket bag. You know how you let it go and it drops back again and you come up again. What line are you on?
I've got, I'm using high-tech line today, right the way through. I've got 0.22 main line, which is about, it's about £8.
Fairly substantial then.
And I've got an 016 hook length, which is about £6 as well, so it's quite strong stuff.
And are you not reluctant? Well, you're obviously not reluctant, else you wouldn't do it. But I mean, you come from the school of light lines and small hooks, and you've obviously made this transition over recent years. Do you find you get less bites?
What I'm going to do today, because we've got a difficult river here, I'm just going to experiment a lot with sort of length of hook lengths. So I'm going to experiment a lot with hook sizes and all sorts. I mean, this is a good start. At least I've hooked a fish. I think I'm going to lose this. Every time I pull on it now, all I can see is branches sticking up. But they're up against it. I think it might be a good idea to try and wade out and shift the tree after we've lost this one. Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. Unlucky. But good start. What were your thoughts this morning when you woke up and saw it was all white over and knew when you were coming?
When I knew we were coming back here, ideally I would have liked it to have been warmer, obviously, but obviously in match conditions when we're fishing in competitions, you can't you can't legislate for how it's going to be. Can
No.
you? What I have been doing is keeping on the pulse of what's been happening on the river over the last sort of week or two. And particularly over the last few days, there's been competitions upstream up at Stourport, which is a favourite place of mine, and the weights have just become steadily less and less. There was a match a couple of days ago, one with sort of £5. That was a couple of chub and just 2 or 3 roach, I think. And what's been happening, because the water temperature now is only about sort of 3 degrees, you know, it takes its effect on the fish. So running a bait through and spraying bait everywhere doesn't work as well sometimes as fishing a static bait, hence the feeder approach. You know, so I think this will be the right way of fishing today, but there's so many different ways we can do it.
Well, let's just have a look at you before you tie a hook on. Let's just have a look at your rig, because when we filmed last year on the Y,
Yeah.
you fished a very different setup to what you've got today.
Well, I've been using this sort of setup for quite some time now, but this is what I call a safe rig, if you like. You know, down the years people have used loop systems and fixed paternosters with feeders and so on. I personally don't think that's the safest way for fish. And the reason for that is, you imagine if that's fixed on the line and then a fixed hook length, and you imagine, you know, what's happened there. If the main line had got stuck there with that fish,
It's tethered.
the fish is tethered.
Yeah.
If it's a barbed hook, it's tethered to the feeder, you know, and I don't think that's fair on the fish. So what I do, I use these what they call gripper stops. And
Is this a Drennan
it's
product?
a Drennan. I mean, they just keep coming out with fantastic stuff,
Yeah.
don't they? That's a gripper stop, which is similar to a float stop, only better. It takes up a bigger cross-section of your line. You tend to find as well, once it's cold in the water, they're ever so easy to put on, but when it's cold in the water, they're quite stiff, yeah?
Yeah.
But you imagine now, let's say that fish had tangled up there. All he'd have had to do is pull along, that would have stood off the line, right, and then the hook would have come loose in due course anyway. So the way I've got that, so that really is my stop. I can fish it fixed, I can fish it running, right, and at this end of it, this is what I call, it's just like a feeder stop, it's just a swivel and a little plastic bead, and it's rubber, actually, like a rubbery plastic effect. So that just sits against there nice.
And what mono is this, Dave?
This is Fox line, again something I've used for quite some time, Fox Micro Plus. High-tech line. It's confidence, isn't it? Line's all about confidence. And I've used this now this is my 3rd season, I think, using this stuff. Very good, but it's such a simple rig. Now, if you look closely at that as well, I've got a little link swivel on there. Now, I always use Camasan black caps for that. Now, it's ever so simple just to take that off. If I want to put a smaller one on, all I do, just drop that onto the swivel. Hey presto, I'm away.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing is with that, I can switch that to an open-ended feeder.
Yeah.
Any type of block-end feeder. Really, really simple.
I think
system.
one of the things that you and I have observed over a long period of time, particularly on the Y and on here, is a lot of anglers come over-leaded, don't they? How much lead have you got on?
Well, I'm using on these feeders. It's just marked on the side with grammage.
Yeah.
I mean, because the river's quite low, you don't need. I mean, normally down here this time of year, you would expect to be using a fair wedge of lead on there.
Yeah.
You know, as much as sort of 3 or 4 ounces sometimes with water on. But today, I've sort of messed around at the start, just sort of getting the setting right. And I found 30 gram, which is just under an ounce or so. It's just about enough to hold the bottom. So what I'm doing, I'm casting. The way I'm positioned, I'm facing slightly downstream, I'm casting almost to the far side, letting the feeder go to the bottom, and then paying off a little bit of line to put a bow into it. Right. So the idea with that is that if you get a big fish take it, you can just register it either as a drop back, or you've got a little bit of slack line to save any sort of crack-offs. Yeah. But what we're going to do, as we go along, I mean, I'll talk you through it as the session goes on, but there's so many different things you can do with feeder fishing now that a lot of anglers don't do enough of. You know, I think the method itself, how it evolved, you know, in the 70s and all that on this river, it was just great big feeders, throw it anywhere and seem to catch marble. But
cocoa tins.
It's become a lot more refined now. The whole
I think that one of the things that I said in the introduction is that we have to fish the peg we draw. And we do find ourselves drawing pegs like this in conditions like this. And it's the difference between the average angler and the good angler, who the good angler gets a place off it, and the average angler is walking the bank after 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to make a suggestion. You tie a hook and I'm going to go and see if I can get that
Yeah,
snag.
please do. So I don't have to go through that again. Cheers.
Good fish?
Yeah, it feels like a good one, David. You see the importance of having a powerful yet sort of through action rod here. When I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on that fish, but the line's strong enough to take it. And again, you'll notice that the fish is coming upstream.
Yeah.
When the minute I hit that, I started putting pressure straight onto it and using the rod properly, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think
It's not a snag upstream now.
But the thing about balanced tackle is the problem, chances are the rod would go before the line.
Yeah.
On this river today, if there was an open on here, I'm talking earlier about the results at Stourport. I mean, you'd have probably won the Stourport match with what you've got. What would your target weight be today?
Well, you know, fish of this size, you've got to be looking at sort of double figures, haven't you? Low double figures, perhaps. It's whatever comes along. It's back to that thing about using the 5 hours and experimenting with it. It's a nice one, isn't it?
Yeah. Filled up for Christmas.
Look at that, it's a cracker, that one. And you know what? There's no bait in that one whatsoever.
Really? What weight do you reckon that is?
Well, it's shaping up to £3.
Three?
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's close.
Absolutely perfect, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was a coincidence. Along comes a boat and along comes a fish.
I just about have time to get it in, I think.
Yeah, he's well upstream at the
You
moment.
see, again, I'm having to put a lot of strength. This fish is looking for snags. Come on.
Well, we're above snag number 1. I seem to recall there was something about where you are now when we were here
Yeah,
last
I remember
time.
that.
Is it?
No, I'm all right, I think.
Do you know, I don't think we'll ever work this out because I was dreading today. I thought he's not going to catch. He's not going to catch. This is quite clearly I'd underestimated your genius. But then you didn't think you were going to catch either.
I thought we were up against it a little bit.
Yeah,
Look at that one again.
lovely fish, and they're in absolute
they're solid
mint
fish as well, you
condition,
know. And
aren't
that's
they?
another £3 fish. That
Yeah.
is solid. There's about 2 or 3 maggots inside him.
I think we should stop now and you go and get your winnings. The boats carry on all the year round, don't they?
Yeah, you know, I don't think it affects the anglers too. Sorry, I think it affects the anglers more than it does the fish on a place like this. Obviously, if you get a procession through, it's bad.
Oh
but,
yeah. But they're very considerate. They're considerate.
The fish are used to this sort of thing. I
Yeah.
mean, they get it all season, don't they?
Yeah. And my memory serves me correctly, you've got about 11 foot out there, haven't you?
Well, not now. I mean, it's probably
Yes, yeah, of course, it's gone down.
it's probably about 8 or 9 foot, something like that.
I never worked out Billy Makin and all those kind of Mark Pollard love of canals where it was just one boat after another.
No. You know, I used to fish canals many years ago, and that was the one thing that did my head in. And still does on rivers now. I mean, I try not to fish sort of lower parts of rivers in the summer months. I mean, the Avon gets it, but I think sometimes the Avon benefits from it.
Yeah.
You know, by stirring the bottom up or whatever. But canals, I just can't do it. You need to have a certain mentality to put up with this, I think, that sort of thing.
Well, I think probably in recent years there has been more bigger fish in the rivers, hasn't there?
Very much so. I fancy a 4th one soon, do you?
Well, I have to say I'm absolutely delighted that that you catch him, because Quite frankly, I thought we'd struggle. And the interesting thing about it is that although the river's very clear, you are fishing with substantial line, aren't you? What size hook are you on?
I've got a 14 on now. It's a 14 Kamasan animal spade. What I tend to do, I bend it in a little bit, I bite it in just to give it like a bit more of a beaked point, if you like. And I also nip the barb in with a pair of tweezers just so it doesn't damage the bait too much when I put it on. But again, you know, it's one of these, it's just a suck it and see thing. I mean, we'll carry on with this for a bit. If you started to get bites ever so regular, if you were going in and getting bites straight away, then, you know, just scale up accordingly. This is what people sort of miss sometimes. There's another one. They miss it sometimes. I mean, when I fish on the River Wye, you know, it's not uncommon to put like a size 12 hook on with quite strong line at times. But when you're getting 5 and 6 pound fish and you're dragging them across strong current, believe me, even with a 0.20 hook length, which is like about 8 pound breaking strain, you're still on your limit at times.
Yeah. Just going back to what you were talking about your shortening and lengthening your hook length. So if I read you right, if it's slow, you tend to lengthen your hook length. And would you now, if you were in a match, would you consider shortening off your hook length?
No, to me now this is perfect at the present time, because it's not like we're going in and getting a bite instantly.
No.
Right. What's happening, the fish are a little bit wary. You know, they're sort of probably sitting back a little bit off the bait, and again, that one's got quite a bit of bait in it. Look, see that one? Look inside.
Oh yeah.
I think they're a little bit wary at times, and you know, it literally, if it was a case of going in, settling, bang, then I'd shorten the hook length off.
Right.
Because chances are you'd be missing bites, they'd be taking it on the drop or whatever. I remember a match once on the River Trent where I actually messed up at the start. It's a match I should have won. I ended up with about 45 pound, and I think the winner had 49 on the day, all chub as well. And I was fishing with a hook length of about sort of 18 inches, which was what, you know, the standard sort of length as we fished. And I ended up fishing about 6 inches, right? You know, 6 inches in length. But then I found out later on, things that you learnt after that time, is that we started putting the line through the feeder and just having a little tiny sort of 2-inch hook length. Because what was happening that day, there was that many chub in the peg. You cast out and your tip was rattling about, and you know, as the fish were attacking to get at the bait, big volumes of fish. But I think today, I mean, we've sort of struck upon it fairly quickly. If I got to a situation where I stopped getting bites, I can't see any point in going shorter. It doesn't really achieve anything. Right, so what I would actually do, in fact, is go longer. And at times I've fished with tails of like 5 and 6 foot on clear rivers like this. You know, I mean, there is that danger that when you've got a massive long tail, you can miss bites because the fish are picking it up, and you could have quite a lot of slack line there. But you know, again, experimentation is the key. It's good to have some hook lengths tied, just to try it. You know, or maybe put 2 or 3 rods up, you know, with different hook lengths, maybe 2 foot, 3 foot, and 4 foot.
I think what comes out of this is that if you're not an attacking angler, the chances are you're not going to put big weights together.
Well, it's a big wild river, isn't it, David? I mean, you look down, it's a massive, big wild river. You know, and that they are. I mean, when they do switch on, they're quite hungry fish, aren't they, chub? You know that. So we're also fishing in territory where we wouldn't even get a float to, you know, we wouldn't get our loose fish. If we were trying to float fish, we wouldn't get there.
No.
So although we fished this peg before successfully, it's a completely different approach, you know, doing it this way.
If you get this out, there'll be West Brom's largest score of the season.
You know what, I put 3 maggots on that time.
Really?
Yeah.
You're now looking for bonus fish, aren't you?
Yeah.
You've done the hard job, you've got your double figures.
I've just tied a longer hook length as well in readiness. So what I'll probably do is just have another cast at this length, and then if I can't get a bite, you know, if I struggle to get a quick bite on this, then I'll try that really long tail and see how that works. It's another really solid fish, you know, that is. Yeah,
but it's quite ironic because the way this is fishing today is very reminiscent of a winter match, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Waited a little while.
So the other thing about this is that's always a little bit confusing is, like, I mean, as that fish just appeared in the swim, because there's no bait in it whatsoever, there's no maggots in the fish at all, apart from mine. No, absolutely empty.
Pound and a half, isn't it?
What's happened, you see, that feed is out on the bottom there, just trickling maggots out really slow. And you can just imagine that, you know, chub are a very sort of curious fish like that, and they're probably just following the trail in, you know, and there's definitely more out there, because I can't believe there's just that extra one fish.
No.
You know, so let's just have another cast in on this.
I don't think the question is ever, are the fish out there? Because if you don't believe the fish are out there, then what you're doing here...
Absolutely.
It's a question of, can you persuade them to feed? And what I've enjoyed about today is you've been very aggressive, but at the same time, as the day has gone on, you've been patient as well.
Yeah.
Well, that longer tail seems to have worked, and you've got yourself your bonus fish.
Yeah, it's not as big as some of the ones we've had, but...
You're getting greedy now, aren't you?
I know, but we always are, aren't we?
But I think you've proved your point, that, as we agreed, you've reached a point in the day now where every bonus fish...
Well, you know, I very
welcome.
much doubt whether we'd have taken that fish on a short tail when it's not massive, but it's another pound. A pound and a bit.
Unbelievable. And yet we've sat here wondering where your next fish was going to come from. And the reality is...
Probably a little pup, isn't it?
Yep, yeah. So that's probably the difference between £14 and £15.
It's been good. I've really enjoyed it today. Again, more lessons learnt, isn't it? You know, I mean, we learnt an awful lot on the float fishing one about putting up different rigs and experimenting. And again, from what I've learnt about this today, I think it would have paid, if you were coming back to fish in similar conditions, it would have paid to probably put a couple of feeder rods up. You know, save having to keep messing. If you've got 2 feeder rods in your bag, why not put them both up? And experiment with the different hook lengths. You know, I would have probably set up the same as we started, 2 foot, and then just ring the changes. Be mindful of the snag situation. It's no good. You know, there's no point coming back after a competition and say I've hooked 10 and landed 2.
And how many times have you and me heard that?
And it happens a lot, doesn't it, in fishing? So, you know, it was right to scale up.
You wouldn't have really given yourself a prayer of winning off this peg, would you, on that method?
Not with the water temperatures as they were. So, yeah, it's been good, and I've enjoyed it.
Terrific. Well, my apologies. I didn't think we were going to catch today. But I think what has come out of today is, don't ever take anything for granted. Dave's persevered. He's tried 3 different methods and he's caught. You heard what he said, the match 2 miles down the road on the prolific Starport water was won with £4. He's probably had £15 and would probably have won the match. Hope you've enjoyed it. We did. Bye for now.